Welcome to the LD channel. Is it up with us yet? It was glitching in. Welcome to the LD channel. This is a live tutorial on how to root and SuperUser an Android watch with version 7 on it. Now that's not the latest version of Android, but that's the one we're doing today. And generally lots of research into it, and this is basically me just summing it up for everybody to make it simpler. It's quite complex, but it shouldn't have to be. I reckon really it's the power control of Google again. They should just allow it in the development options to tick on SuperUser whenever you want to use a SuperUser, because there are applications out there that you do need to install from time to time, where you need to have full rights to your watch to be able to install the drivers, right? A bit like Windows, where you need admin rights. So it should be like that. Android should have the capability of giving you the admin rights when you need to modify the system to make it better. Out of the box is generally okay for most people, but there are people like myself that want to make things a lot better. Now, one of the features that I've needed to have SuperUser right was able to control my watch, which is a little small 2.5 inch screen, or 2.8. Here's a picture of it here. It's a fairly chunky watch because of my bad eyes. Before then I had a smaller square one, which was a lot easier to root. But I kind of like the wearable smartphone, because you always grab a watch when you go out, and you can have really fancy clock faces on the display, and it's multiple cores and big battery. It gets quite warm though. And there's pictures of it there. LEMT is the one I've got. It's a fairly chunky watch. Most people call it an amulet because it looks like a big, like Wonder Woman on the wrist. But you can put Google Assistant on and talk to your watch to call home or whatever. Without having to read the screen, which is another benefit, because you need like Android 5 or 6 base minimum to be able to get a Google Assistant working. So yeah, I'm not too sure how many people will be interested in this, but it seems to come up time and time again, so I've put this together just so it reminds me how I did it. Of course, I haven't got another watch I can demonstrate it totally to you on. I'm using Windows 10, but obviously you can root it from other operating systems like Linux, or Linux if you want to call it that, and Windows and Mac, but Windows is definitely the easiest, I find, and because it's got a lot of packages and a lot of more people using it. So yeah, I'll just type up my site. So welcome to the OT channel live tutorial. Because it's unscripted, so we might trip over some words here. Live tutorial on rooting, which sounds like you're going to stuff up your phone, which is possible. Whatever I show you here today is by a user beware. You could quite easily brick your phone if you just really don't know what you're doing. But I will show you how to reroute it if you have problems, because you can reflash to it. There's a level of intelligence in devices now where you can connect the USB cable, but you can still reflash it even if it won't boot up. So yeah, there's a level of security nowadays in the devices. So even if you really stuff it up, you can normally get it back again. But I'll just go through the safest way, because I wanted to do it the easiest and safest way without changing the image, from the factory default. I just wanted to have SuperUser to be able to install these applications, as I said at the beginning. Of course, it changes with every Android version. They improve the security and functions and the partitions. So we'll go over that in a minute. Root in Android. But yeah, this generally works on most phones because they update the software to be able to always be the latest Android at the time down to the oldest. Well, normally they'll say if they drop off older versions, might go down to version 4. So version 4 to version 10 or 11 normally will tell you. I'll post the links that I use down the side, but I will put together all my files, the key files I used to get this watch working. So you don't have to mess around looking for them. Hopefully Google Drive will let us upload those. Got data folder here with all the files that I used. So let's just go through the process now. So that's the watch we're doing this session, but I'll go over the terminology first. So when you get your watch, it's normally in partitions. I'll just draw a diagram here. So if you could just imagine that your NAND memory, which is like a ROM, which is solid state, like as one block of data like that. In the past, it used to be a spinning disk. But it starts at the top from memory 0. Doesn't matter how the technology works, and it goes all the way down to nowadays 32 gig ROM, whatever that address is down there. And normally they're carved up into bits. So normally you have a front one, which I think is the preloader, which boots the firmware to be able to talk to the USB cable. And then you have one that's called the boot image, and then you have another one that's called recovery, and then you have basically user. Well, there's actually a few more. There's another one called cache, I think. Might be a couple other partitions there that the watch uses or the phone uses. So normally that's the user space here with the operating system, which is Android. We'll just call it Droid. So you got the preloader, I think is the USB code so it can talk, and then these other partitions are the ones you modify down here. Boot, and you get the similar on PCs, of course, Windows. Then you got the boot loader, the boot image, no, recovery, I mean. They call it boot or boot loader up here. And the next one's recovery, and the next one was cache, which helps it store very common files there for applications, as well as operating system boots up faster, instead of having to search through lots of files, of course. How come my thing's not working? I might have to redo that again. We've had this problem before. Country man, how you doing? Hey Paul, what's up? Hang on, we haven't got you up on the side, so I didn't notice you there. Let's see if we can get it going. Does my welcome message come up? Okay, so what's going wrong with the side chat now? Let me just reload that. I bet it's OBS. OBS has gone crazy today. Snap. Hopefully it doesn't stuff it up. I'll just refresh that. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be talking. Let me see if I can fix that. Sometimes you have to log out and log back in. Just hang in there while I just check how we can do it. I'll just restart that just in case again. Yes, went straight into teaching mode and didn't do my pre-checks. Just to make sure anyone jumps on the side can talk to me. Not that anyone really joins me live. Anyone? There? No, OBS has gone down now. Or something else. Okay, let's see if I can fix it. If it log in, log out doesn't work, then we're in trouble. I have to not have chat on the side on the screen, unless I do it the old-fashioned way without using OBS. Oh yeah, they've locked me out. Wonder why they do that. Must have done some major updates. Let's see if this fixes it. Now I have to remember all my passwords and things. Got the password remembering tool here, so let's see if it works. Is that inserted? Obviously you can't see what I'm doing here. Okay. It's one of these ones where they got to send you a code, which is a pain in the bum. Is it by email? Yeah. Twitch code. Hang on, I got to open up my email with a number just to log in. Talk about high security, yeah? Did they get hacked or something recently? There's been some strange happenings, I guess. Come on, Wick. I see it's automatically started my chat. Oh, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting that. Okay, it might be working now. Let's see. Unfortunately, I got lots of stuff working. Anyone out there? I'm not seeing it come up here. That's annoying, isn't it? That's why stuff goes wrong. Yeah, CPU's lagging now. I'll fix that up in a minute, hopefully. One. No, it's still not working. Let me just reload this again. Come on, Twitch. What are you playing up today? No, still not working. Did say it was logged in though. It's kind of weird. I've never had this problem before though. Twitch. Let's see, can we send a test message to it from OBS? That way it'll be seeing it's connected at least. Let's see, is there a way to do that? Stuff you today. Probably only makes the connection when you go live, does it? Chatbots. I don't know how you test it out here. Alert box, widgets. So many options. Chat box. Is that what it's called? I don't know. Copy. Chat started. It's got to be the one. How can I send a test message to it though? It should be working. No. Let's try it the old-fashioned way. And hopefully they get it fixed for next time. Pop out. Looks like I've got a garbage in there now. Pop out chat. Here we go. Let's see if it still works. Nope, it's doing something. Looks like the old backup plan works. So we got it on there. It's got all the old messages on there. Probably should delete some. Yeah. How do you do that? I don't know. As myself, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? Doesn't even have a delete box. Oh well. Anyway, the welcome messages are there. I have to tidy it up after. Makes it a bit hard for me to read it though, because I have to zoom down there. We can minimize that over here then. And get rid of that. Alright, so on with the tutorial. Unbelievable. There's almost something always throws a spanner my way, I tell you. Men in Black. Okay, it's all looking good. And just speed it up a bit, hopefully. Okay, so hello. So say something down the side if you're still there. And make sure it's popping up there. On with the show on backup plan. So where were we? So I was talking about partitions. So generally, it's that thing there, and they call that a bootloader. And generally, what's happening is often if one of these, if the boot or the recovery get corrupted, it copies another self-copies itself back to the boot. So what happened is people would flash recovery with their own version, and normally it comes up with the green Android. But we're going to talk about installing some specialist software called Team Window Recovery Project, Twirp, I call it. And it gives a nicer interface instead of the old general Android recovery that you get. They should make a deal with Android and actually just use it as their standard thing, because it allows you to back up your images, change your images on the equipment. And if it ever gets corrupted, you can get another device the same and restore all your data exactly how you had it. But of course they won't do that, because it's not about the consumer, it's about their greedy pockets and control. Of course, Android recovery, let's just bring up a screen snapshot. So you're normally used to seeing this maybe by now if you've owned a smartphone, especially an Android one, where it gives you all this green Android that pops up, and then it gives you all this text on the screen, which is really unfriendly. No graphical interface. It's like this here, comes up like this, and you scroll up and down reading the options. And if you've got a really small device, it's very hard to see. Not sure if we've got another closer image. So you're probably used to that. Android recovery is just horrible. It's very DOSy, and it starts up normally like that there when you're clearing for reformatting with the factory reset. Right, so that's the standard one, but we want to replace it with a much nicer one here, which allows us to give us full control over it, basically format stuff and partitions exactly the same way, and install SuperUser. Now, what is SuperUser? SuperUser is just what they call the root user under Unix, which is basically administrator on Windows. Okay, and it allows you to have pretty much full control over the operating system to install your own drivers. And so, what do we need to start this ball rolling? Well, obviously, you're going to need cables, you're going to need software, and you're going to need a step-by-step process. So we'll be going through all that. How to load Twrp without replacing the built-in bootloader. So doesn't that sound good, that you can actually boot to that nicer menu, allows you to give full control without changing anything on the original device. There's ways to do it, but it doesn't always work. And we'll go through that as well. Now, in my older phones, I could copy Twirp and rename it image. I think it was image.img or recovery. It might have been recovery. I'm not sure. And you can stick it on the root of the SD card if you have one in the device. Now, this watch I've got here doesn't have an SD card. It has an internal built-in one only of 32 gigabytes. So that's that out. So normally it looks, when you boot up the device, but look, it looks for a CD-ROM on Windows. Android looks for the SD card, and if it sees a boot image there, it will load that over the internal one, which is really handy because that means you can just replace it on your SD card and away you go. So we'll be covering that too. And I'm not sure we need that anymore. I suppose you can keep it open in the background just in case you want to refer back to it. So just to prove that it's rooted, I've got this VNC, Virtual Network Connector. It allows us to control my watch, which proves the point that it has been super used, and it's allowed the modifications to the Wi-Fi to allow me to connect to it. So if I I've got my IP address of the phone in here with the port number. We won't go into that. Other people can probably talk about that in tutorials. But the software, when you install it on the phone, will tell you what numbers to put into this viewer, which I will show you where you can get it from in a minute. So if we double click on that, it will try to connect to the phone. At the moment it's on lock screen and it's black, so sometimes it doesn't work until you push the button. Hey, got you, man. Yeah, you're using a Mac, so it's a bit complicated. Android's the way to go. Okay, so it won't work with the lock screen. Not always. Sometimes it will. It depends what stage it's in. Let me just bring it up on the watch. Let's try again. And straight away you can see it's sending the display of my watch to Windows. And you can see it matches the time down here. Almost. We've got some delay in the signal, a few seconds, but now we can just simulate swiping by just clicking on the screen and moving left and right. So I'm going to go swipe it left, hopefully. Normally it works. It might be slow because I'm streaming at the same time. Normally it's quite fast. So now it's brought up the icons on the next screen instead of the watch face. And the first thing we need to do on the phone while it's working is go into developer mode. So we want to go into the settings icon up here, just click on it. And we can see all the settings of the phone here. It's not your standard Android. Obviously it's been modified for the watch, which I really hate because I like standard Android, but it's not too bad. It's got everything you need, and you just go down to About Watch, click on that, and it'll give you all the stats and information about it. But we want developer options, but there's a better way to get it on the phone here, on the watch, and that is always go down to the build number, which is DM100 LEMT. I'll just zoom in on it. Version 1.4. Some people say version 1's better because they haven't disabled stuff, and I think there might be a version 2 out now. But I don't care. Version 1.4 is good enough for me, and I just wanted them modified just the recovery and boot to be able to put SuperUser on. So first of all, you would have to click on that 7 times, and it'll tell you how many you got left, and then it goes into should be all the options for developer. Okay, it's added a few more there now. So the only main ones we want turned on here, and we'll just go down the list. Screen will never sleep while charging. Actually, that should be off. I would have thought it should have been off. And did I accidentally click on it? I must have done. Is that turned on there? Yeah, that was turned on. It's a bit hard to tell. And it doesn't look a bright green up there, right? So we want OM unlocking turned on. Is that turned on or off? Enable. So you'd have to make sure that's allow the bootloader to be unlocked, which means it can be modified. Also, you want to go down here for USB. Where is it? Debugging. Turn that on there. And that's the two options that you always need to have turned on. The rest of it should be alright. So you can see I got full control over the watch here, and it's not too bad even while I'm streaming. Hopefully it's still working after all the little glitches we had. Yeah, so as you can see, I've got various apps on here, and the one I install is Handsent SMS, because I don't like normally the default ones, and it has like a bubble chat thing. So if I click on that, it loads up my test message from my other tablet. It's got a SIM card in it, and you can customize it with a background and the person you receive it from. And you can change the size of the font, and Methos makes this makes it a wee bit easier to change the size of the font than rather than using the small text initially on the phone. That's the main reason I wanted it installed. And to get out of that, swipe left again, is it? Sometimes it's a wee bit tricky. There you go. Goes back to the watch face. So yeah, the watch can be anywhere in the house on your LAN, of course. You can put a password on to make it a bit more secure if you want to. You got Play Store there to install the apps, and I got SuperUser on here, a SuperUser checker. Verify view root. Click on that. I'm not sure how long it takes to check. So there you go. Congratulations. This device has root. So that's what we want to see. And also we know it's got root working when we see the other package, which can be hidden. I haven't hidden the app, which allows us to control the prompting for thing. It's called Majestic. It's got an anonymous face mask there. Allows us to customize how the super user interfaces with the people. Once you've got that up and you know that you've flashed it properly, and then you got full control over root access. Another one I've put on is add away, which gets rid of all those annoying ads on applications. add away as a nice little feature. Although what you do is you always end up buying the stuff to support the people, or I do, only if it's a few bucks. Now I've just recently got Copilot working. I did buy a license years ago for $100, and I found it a bit better than Google. And it just gives you instructions over the voice. You can see we got interrupted then on the watch. Some application there blabbing off the weather, which I need to figure out which one's doing that and turn it off as possible. We also got enlarged font, which is kind of handy sometimes, but I've just set it to 100% at the moment. And normally if you double tap it, you normally get the magnifier anyway. Oh, I didn't want to do Copilot. But it is running on another operating system. It should have a female voice. Yeah, so that's Copilot. The addresses are not going to be correct though. Okay, so CPU said, what else we got here that need to be looked at? And you've got the Assistant running, Google Assistant. So you can say, okay Google. Let's see if it comes up. Okay, is it coming up? Yep. What is the temperature today in Rolliston? Did you hear what I said? Maybe it's too slow. What is the temperature today? Once it gets started. Used to work. Okay Google, try something different. What is my dog's name? Okay, looks like it's working now.
According to dictionary.com, adjective, not alike in character or quality, distinct in nature, dissimilar. The
That's
two
not my
brothers
dog's
are very
name.
different even though they're identical twins.
Okay Google, stop. Okay Google, what is my dog's
Sorry,
name?
I don't understand.
Okay Google, what is my dog's name? Looks like it needs retraining.
You told me that your dog's name is Charlie Roo.
There you go. So I haven't tested it out since Google Assistant since I've mucked around with it. Yeah, it looks like it's all working alright. I noticed it doesn't transmit the sound from the phone to the computer here, but maybe there's a way to do that with VNC, I don't know. But anyway, that's the two options in debugging that you need to check. Don't want to spend too long on that. Just close that down, just to want to show you it's working. So let's go through the process now. So this guy here put out this article, how to use Twrp to flash an Android device that refuses to boot to Twirp. Now this is like using DOS mode, right? And it's fairly complicated. but you have to type in all these commands and things. Now, it talks about here, enable development mode, which you just saw me do on the watch. Enable debugging over USB, and also one he hasn't put here is about the OME unlock enabled. So turn off unlock. So first of all, you're going to install the ADB and FASTBOOT devices. And I think I've got the next stage on that, which is XDA, which is one of the main groups on how to customize your Android and anything to do with Android, basically. And you can download their latest software here, which installs on the Windows. I'm not sure if they've got other versions for other operating systems here or not. It talks about Windows 8. Can't see any other operating systems mentioned. So basically, if you run that, install it. Allows you to do this. So you get a copy of your command prompt. Just right click on it and say run as administrator, which is like root or SuperUser. And it comes up like this into Windows system folder. Normally you change to the partition where you download stuff. Where you would put your image files that you want to send across to the phone. So normally you would, at this stage, connect your USB cable to a USB port on your PC. And on the phone it would say USB connected, and the default mode would be charging, and you can just click on open, and then on the notifications it comes up on the screen. You click open and you can choose what option you want, file transfer or some other mode for transferring pictures only. So you want to choose transfer files, and then it brings up a drive letter for you where you can actually copy files across. So look here, you would have a list of, you'd have an extra drive letter that has actually got a picture of an Android or the phone image, and you click on that and it's actually looking at the hard drive inside the watch there, which they call a ROM. Okay, the user area. So it allows you then to copy some files across that you need for flashing. Obviously, because when you boot using the watch only, when it's not connected to Windows, it needs to access those files like Twrp and SuperUser to finish off the process. But in this case, we want to have all the files here in downloads, and at the moment I haven't gotten there, but I'm just going to show you what you normally do. And you would type in ADB Android something rather, I'd have to look it up what it means, and you can see there it recognizes the command. It allows us to do all sorts of crazy things to send over the USB cable to the watch or the Android device. So you can use this to flash, reboot, and transfer files as well to the system area using the debug mode. I suppose that's what ADB stands for, debug. Okay, so you can follow that guy's article here, which is what I tried to do initially. unlock your bootloader, which doesn't work. So normally you type in that there. Now the -go tells it to say yes, if you're lucky. It doesn't work on the watch. And because the watch hasn't got a volume button for scrolling up and down, we have no way to choose Y, I mean, not S. And that's a pain. As you know, that means we can't get any further, because if you can't unlock the bootloader, it won't allow you to copy onto it. So if you is it going to paste it? It won't let me copy it. But anyway, we can just type it in. So with FASTBOOT, you can say OEM. Even though we said to unlock it in development mode, it still doesn't work here, using the DOSy way to do it. Okay, so it says waiting for device, so it's not obviously USB turned on and enabled for file access. That's what it's telling us. Normally it would go through and say unlocked on the screen of the phone, but in this case it doesn't work. It says it took me a few like 6 hours mucking around with this, trying to figure out is there a way to do it, because it puts a prompt on the screen of the phone saying press the volume up button to select yes to unlock, and you can't do it. And the -go doesn't work. So he says other ways to try it, and it doesn't work either. Flash unlock, I think it is. That's another one. Doesn't work. Flash and unlock. So that was that. So I thought, well, if we can't flash, maybe we can boot to TWRP, because I talked about how you could copy it to the root of the SD card and rename it to recovery or boot, and it would choose that one over the internal one each time. Or you can do without replacing the built-in bootloader. So I thought I'd try that, and again, that didn't work. So the key is to always find the version of TWRP that works for your chipset or the size of the screen. Normally the software will be clever enough to work out the DPI of your screen and shrink down the font accordingly, and it could be too small to read, of course, so you might need a magnifying glass on a watch to see the 2-point font or 1-point font. So yeah, that would be really good if that worked. I tried it on the watch. It doesn't work on the watch, but it might work on other Android devices. So if you got your TWRP thing, you can normally find out if there's a version for your phone out there already from the official site, and you can search it up, TRP, for models. So maybe that will come up. Okay, and then you can just go down the list. You can get it on the phone app as well. There's a phone app, but to flash it from the app you need SuperUser, right? So it's a bit pointless, but yeah, so it's got various ones here. I don't see my one though, called 3 Hour, I think it's called. My other phone, Alcatel. But one of them might be compatible. Who knows? What else we got? Samsung will be well supported, I guess. There's quite a few brands out there, isn't there? Samsung and all the different brands there. And model numbers. That one's well supported. Sometimes you can ask the guy to do one for your phone, and you can try it out. If it doesn't work, it just simply locks up. So yeah, it's always best to see if someone out there's firstly got it available. So check the main site there. I'll just post a link to it down here. You can see it's a big learning process. And of course, this is me condensing it down for you to understand it all. But normally you'd search for the XDA forum and see if anyone's modified it, found problems with it. And you type in your brand name, Twrp, and see if anyone's got a variation made for it, because there's a lot of clever people out there that can modify that sort of code, and Google normally come up with something. So XDA Alcatel 3L, let's see if that comes up. There we go. There we go. Unveils. Is that the one? Low cost footable. Yep. So I've got one of these phones. So normally they give a rundown of specs on it. And then you can find if anyone's managed to super user it. It doesn't look like there's anything on that page. So type in TWRP. Let's see if we can get. There we go. Is that the one we want? Yeah, this is where you do a bit of reading. See if anyone that's actually done it. Easy method to root, blah blah blah. No Twirp. Well, I'd say it's always hard when you haven't got TWRP and you want to find the TRWP, and you can just use the FASTBOOT method to copy it across. So that would be like FASTBOOT what is that running? It should be running FASTBOOT. What was it? Flash something. So it looks like you have to go through that. It will be there. I bet someone's already done it. We're under flash it. Or flash space recovery and the name of the Twirp image. Okay. And then you just simply reboot your phone, which will reboot it to recovery for you straight away. And then you can do installing of the SuperUser files. Doing it at operating system level on the phone itself, which has SuperUser rights from the recovery, right? The recovery has full control. So I'll just post a link to this guy's article here too. So this is ADB, how to get it set up running with FASTBOOT on Windows 10, or actually 7 and higher, I think they said. And you'll find If you try and do it on my watch, you won't get anywhere. And even if you try all the tricks, but it might work on a phone. So once you got Twrp installed on your bootloader, you're in business, because now you can then start installing the next stage, which is, did I copy that one before? I think I did. We'll just copy it again just to be sure. FASTBOOT software, which is on the XDA. So we don't need that anymore. Like I said, I'll try and upload Google Drive the files you need. And we don't need that anymore. But we need to find various files to install before we can actually do anything. Now, there's a backup plan, which is what the factory uses, called a USB Flash tool. Overrides the security that we can't get past with the FASTBOOT method. So it assumes that you've got USB firmware running that allows you access to the internal ROM, which you can then just write partitions on and the final code. But there are a couple of tricks you need to do to install this, get this Flash tool software running as usual, and which we'll just go over. So here's the rundown of installing Twirp recovery using the USB Flash tool from the makers. So we're on to plan B. If the generic way doesn't work. And of course this allows us to totally do every image under the sun. You know, it allows us to write all the partitions, which they call a scatter file, and copy all the operating system, Android and all that across what version it is. So the requirements here it talks about is the correct custom recovery for your device. So that could be the boot image, recovery image, and the operating system image. Download the latest Flash tool, which you can do that link there. You need the MTK VCOM USB drivers. Should be installed on your computer. Original USB cable and working PC, MTK base device. In other words, the watch in this case, and the USB cable. So we can go to the LEMT for my watch and find the default factory image. Why is it not scrolling down? It's got some ads there. So our one is LMT 3 gig of RAM plus 32 ROM, and you click on that and it opens up Google Drive or something like that, where you can download it, which is like 120 megabytes. It's fairly big, but I'll see if I can include it with my Twirp modifications, which as far as I'm concerned they should have done in the first place. It should be included, but that's just me. Why put on that stupid recovery when everybody wants to flash it at some stage? or restore it or back it up. So the first thing to get it working on Windows is we need to modify the USB drivers for these MTK device. Basically it treats the connected Android as broken, not the and it doesn't use the normal checks that Windows does for the USB. It can actually just communicate over the USB directly to the device and flash it without interference. So you have to go through this process under Windows 10, but you have to do this procedure here with the latest updates on Windows 10 now, which means you actually have to reboot the Windows with the boot up startup commands, and eventually you'll get F7 or key number 7 on the keyboard. I press 7 on the keyboard to unassign MTK drivers. Well, to install unsigned drivers, because apparently these are unsigned or not compatible with Windows 10 as far as that's concerned, but you can turn that off and they'll install fine. So it gives you screen snapshots here, how to do it. To get Device Manager up, right click on the start, go Device Manager, and then you get this up here. Then you get Add Legacy, and so it's got some nice screen snapshots how to do it. Go through the process, install all devices, and then have a disk, and then browse to where you unzipped this thing here, which I'll post a link in the side chat in a minute. And also if I upload my collection, that will be there. And then you select 64-bit Windows. Everybody will probably be using 64-bit, not 32-bit, which is the next one down, if you don't choose the wrong one. And normally it will come up with an error saying it's not signed digitally, and you choose this new pop-up that you don't normally get until you rebooted the system properly. Install this driver anyway, and you choose MTK USB ports, and it goes on a fair bit. Eventually it will come up and show in the list here. And the last thing you do once it's installed is uninstall it, but make sure don't delete the driver software. So Windows doesn't see it and interfere with normal USB, but the Flash software will see it and use it. Basically, that's what they're saying there. Complicated, I know. I told you it was a long process. So Windows 10 modern USB for the Flash tool. You think the Flash tool installer would do it all for you? I think it might have done in the past. I kind of recall it was doing something like that, but not now. So we don't need that one anymore, and we don't need to know what SuperUser is, and we don't need to know what Twirp is. And Mediafire, we could put a link to that, I suppose. Drivers for Flash tool. There we go. So we don't need that anymore. Okay, so how to install it. Now there's a quick list here on this site, which is like general for any MTK device that you have to get the right scatter file, which is normally included in their factory download image because they use the same tool. So how to basic information. So once you've downloaded the custom USB stuff, the flash tool and image, and we're ready to go. So download it, install. Now open up the flash tool. Okay, we can do that, but we can simulate it. So I unzipped it here. And scroll down. And there's flashtool.exe, and you right click on that. And run as administrator. Now I forgot to do something. And they talk about deleting the history.ini file there. So I'll just redo that. So down here, there's normally a history. Normally just delete that before you run the executable. If it's there, of course. If it's first time, it won't be there. Okay, click on that and run it again. Okay, and it comes up with no error this time. So now we want to browse to where we've extracted our image from that official site, and I unpacked it, and it created this one called database and image from the big file that was downloaded. Where is it? This one here. What did I say? 120 megabytes. It looks like it's 1.72 gig. There is it. I wonder why I said 122. I'm not too sure now. Well, clearly I'm totally wrong. So it takes a wee while to download that, of course. And inside that is these folders. And the one that's got image is obviously all the key ones, and the one I want to get rid of is checksum.ini if it's there, just because it causes problems. But we want boot, cache, checksum generator.exe, loader, a logo, and it's got various chunks of user areas there with the OS and whatnot. Recoveries there. So the main ones we want to change is the boot one and the recovery. And essentially we need to copy the TWRP to both of those. I know it sounds crazy, but the boot replaces the recovery if you don't with the default one. So you got to copy it to boot as well. And of course it's not changing the partitions, it's just writing the default file called .image into that location, and recovery.image. So even if you stuff it up, you can keep running that tool and reflashing it until you've got it right. So you can't really stuff it up if you check the right options, obviously, in the flash tool. But because we downloaded the standard image, which is the first version, even if you flash the whole lot as it exists, it's basically creating a full factory rewrite, not just a factory reset, but everything's been reflashed back onto the memory. As you know, sometimes that's what you have to do when the operating system starts corrupting through bad RAM. So when you unzip this, you get the TRW and rename it boot, and also rename it recovery, and copy it into that location, because that's where the flash tool will be looking, its default location. So you download, in this case with the LMT, I'll provide a copy. I've just renamed it TWRP here just to make it simpler, but you end up with a strange long name like not that one. Maybe I renamed it anyway. Has a longer name normally. What did I do? Has a long name like something like that, C10 or something like that, and I just renamed it to boot, and then made a copy of it and renamed that to recovery, and copied the boot and recovery into image. So I'll provide the whole image file as it exists, hopefully. I've got enough room on my Google Drive, and I'll add it into the description. I also downloaded the software, which I'll go over next, which is the SuperUser software, and it's a APK, but also create a copy of it and put .zip on the end, which is what TWRP looks for. Apparently what they've done is they've merged the boot files with the package file into one now. Normally you got two files, the boot image and the package separately, but now they've made it easier. Unfortunately it doesn't quite work on the watch, but that's why I upload both versions with the extension on and different, because we can fix that once it's booted up, but I'll go through that in a minute. Alright, so first of all, you just click on scatter file and just go browse, and go into image like I talked about, and you can find the scatter file there, and it should edit like so, and there's all the partitions. Because we haven't got the watch connected, but you can see there's a few partitions on this watch. Cache, system, so there's a lot more than what I drew on my initial diagram. That one. We've got preloader, which is one you don't normally touch, I think. And then you got recovery, and down here you got boot. So I got the wrong order, but it doesn't really matter. And it's got all these other ones here, which I'm not sure what do. But as you can see, it's found all those images in the thing we downloaded, and all you would do is click download, and it would write all that image to the watch. But we don't want to do that. We just want to change the boot and recovery. Normally you leave the phone powered off, but connect up the USB, and careful not to knock off the USB when you power it back on. And when you power it on, download will detect the watch coming live, and it'll go beep beep on Windows, and then it'll start writing the files across, and then it'll come up and say okay, no problems. And then you can reboot your watch and you have the new image on there, and obviously Twrp running, which then you can then install the SuperUser side of things. So in this case, we want to untick all. We don't want to copy the whole image across unless you want to redo your watch from scratch or you stuffed it up. You just want to tick on boot and recovery. Once you've set up those with the rename and copying, or you can download my image if I get it up there. And of course you want boot and you want recovery. Where's recovery gone? Why is it not scrolling up? Why can't I see recovery? There it is in green. Green's a horrible colour to read with black writing. So we've got 2 ticks. So not much really can go wrong. And basically power on your click download and power on your watch, and it will be done within a few seconds pretty much. It's not too much to write there. Then reboot your thing, and you'll have the Twirp menu come up, which I should have left open. I don't know if they got pictures of it here. So this guy steps through the basic instructions as well. Now he talks about pressing the volume down and up buttons. So maybe it's slightly different with different phones, but you'll know if it's written because it will say OK. Here's the location for the Flash tool, all versions down there. You want to get the latest one, obviously, just in case it's got fixes. So the Flash tool download was there. Okay, once it's written, you get the little tick as you shows here, or wherever the company shows if you've done it right. So that one's written to 2 different images. So we need to get this next. Well, before we actually... Well, we needed to get that before we burnt the watch, actually. I had it out of order here. That should have gone before we were looking at the software to download. First of all, you need to get this and transfer copy across. So what they've done is they've merged the Magist install and manager into one, and as I said, it doesn't quite work on the phone. It does the image okay, doesn't do the APK okay for some reason. I suspect it'll be something to do with Google protection. Normally turn that off, maybe that will work then. And maybe it stops it installing as it's booting up, complete and install. Be something like that. Be a missing step somewhere. But it's alright, we can fix it by reinstalling it manually, the second part of it. So we want to download it from the official site, which is GitHub. Get the latest builds, download it. So yeah, a bit of a shame I got it out of order there, because yeah. Okay, didn't copy my link for some reason. So we need to get the SuperUser software, and you could probably do it other ways, but this one is more popular now. This software is more popular than the old SuperUser one, but you can replace it later, I guess. Replace one SuperUser with another if you don't like this one, but I don't find any problem with this one. So once you've got it downloaded, like I showed you in the download folder here, you'll have that. Copy it and put .zip on the end, and copy those two to your drive letter on the watch before you start flashing it. Just stick it in the root. I found easier. And also in here they said that you needed the original boot image. So I copied the original boot image also to the watch. So always back up images that you overwrite, like I have done here. So save up the boot image to the root of the watch, so you always got the original boot image. And you should be good to go. So you need those 3 files there. And do the flashing, reboot the watch, and then it'll come up with the menu, which I'll bring up here. Gee, how did I do that? Yep. Okay, so we've done that. Unfortunately, they should have been before the last bit. Okay, so if you type in Twrp again, go to their websites. So obviously they got a standard one, but you want one customized for your device, of course. I want to see the wiki on it, so we've got screen snapshots. Well, actually, maybe you can just type that. So it gives you this menu on your watch. So when you boot up, it should go straight into that after you've flashed the recovery and boot. Should go straight into it, no problem. And then it should work, unless it's not compatible, the one you've chosen for your phone. And then you choose install, which is that button up here. Install. And it will come up with another screen. I'm not sure if it'll show it here. But yeah, when it first boots up, you got to slide the thing across to say, give it full permission to write. Do not tick on read only. You want full permission, then you get the full menu. Click install, and then first thing you do is you flash the boot image original back to the boot, because you want it to boot up normally, right? So you put TWRP in boot and recovery at the flash level, so it doesn't sort of stuff up the process. It's always going to load TWRP and come up with this menu. Now we want to put the original boot thing in so we can boot up the normal operating system, so that's why you need a copy of the original boot from the firmware. So don't stuff up that step. And then you click on a thing down the right hand side. It says IMG, and you should be able to scroll through the root folder of your phone and find boot.img that you copied there, and tick boot partition, and then swipe across from left to right, and it'll write the boot image to the boot partition again. And then the next phase would be to install the SuperUser, and so you go back out, you click on back at the top here, a little arrow goes back this way. Unfortunately I haven't got screen snapshots of that, but it comes up with these pop-ups over top of it, and you can click back, go back to the install, which gets you back to there. To there, and then it's do select, and this time it looks for the zip file. Now scroll down to where you find the zip file called TWRP, or whatever you called it, .zip. No, not TWRP, what I'm talking about. What is it called now? Magist.zip. Magist 22.1, this is the latest version, .zip. Go down there and click on that, and say install, and you swipe across, and you'll start to see it saying little things on the screen, installing, creating partition, all that sort of stuff. Basically it's modifying the operating system using a script that's found in the zip file, and the boot image for the operating system. And then it will say reboot on the bottom right. You say reboot, which we haven't got a screen for here, and it will reboot the phone, and this time the normal boot manager will come up, not the TWRP. That's now in recovery only, so you'd have to boot to recovery if you want to get the TWRP back again. And you don't need to reflash it like we did before. It's all done if you've done it correctly. And whatever you do, don't knock off the USB cable when you do it, and make sure there's no power cuts. And that's when things go wrong. And then it'll boot up normally, and you'll go to your watch, and it will come up as we showed here. I've got it unlocked, so it'll come up with your watch screen. Okay, and if you scroll down and find MAG, you'll find it's not installed properly. If you've installed previously the root checker software, let's see, I can scroll upwards. I think I can use the scroll rule on this as well, which is quite handy. So you can check to see if it's got root, and it'll say twice, chicken twice, and it'll say no. And you'll find that this hasn't got the proper icon, just got the word Magist in it. It hasn't installed it properly. So this is when you go to your file manager and choose device, and you should be able to find the files that you copied on there through Windows. That was the full name of it. Recovery C10 blah blah blah. I renamed it to TWP RP to make it easier to type in. But there's the boot image, and there's Magist zip, and also weapon there. Should be just the package file. I've got 2 copies. Something got screwed up there. Anyway, one of those should be just the package file without the zip on the end. Alright, so looks like one's an unzipped version. One's unzipped, is it? Maybe I'll stick it in downloads. Did I stick it in downloads? Downloads is a general folder that you get on here when you download something from browser or whatever. Seems to be scrolling too fast. Download here. There it is there. I'll stick it in downloads, just separate from the zip ones. And just install that, and it should give you full SuperUser control. Installs the rest of it fine. You'll probably have to untick Google protection and also install from unknown locations or something like that. Sources, unknown sources. You're probably used to that one if you're an Android user. And that's it. You should be in business. And it will pop up saying root found on the other program now. And it will first prompt you, say allow this checker program SuperUser rights, and you click allow. And it should be all good. If you stuff it up, you're going to have to go to the manager. This manager here. In your watch, and delete the deny or change the deny if you're stuffed up. How do we get out of this? Why is it not? Let me get out of it. I want to get out of it. It's a wee bit tricky with the slide finger. Here we go. I think it's gone back one. Now I want to get out of it completely. No. Sometimes it's best to push the back button, the top button, on the phone itself. But yeah. Yeah, you just run that there if you stuff up. Allows you to delete your alloweds and denied list and all that sort of stuff. Reset it. And yeah, you should be in business. Install VNC if you want and control it. Be able to read it. So if you get a text message on your phone, it doesn't have to be your watch, somewhere in the house, you can then just read it on Windows and reply back. You know, because you've got to type in like you cursor your finger and not actually use the keyboard though. But I think there's a way to connect a keyboard to your mouse, a Wi-Fi keyboard to your mouse as well. So yeah, you can do that sort of stuff. and Bluetooth, of course. So that's it. We're now on 35 minutes later, but I did add in a lot of extra stuff there and not condense it right down to like a 10-minute process. You know, you can just click on the files, download now, install. Well, actually, it's going to be longer than that. Time you reboot your Windows, install the USB drivers. It'll probably take you 20 to 30 minutes to do it, probably, and download everything. You know, it's still going to take you some time. Hopefully, you found that useful. Like I said, it was unscripted, so it's a wee bit jumbled there. And there's meant to be a space junk falling down soon to Earth, 30 hours away, so we'll check that out on the next live show I do. Because I normally do my topics on fake UFOs. Well, actually real UFOs as well, and paranormal and that sort of stuff is not what I normally do, my interest subject. But I am a computer scientist, and this is the sort of other stuff I do. And also I'm a music lover and muck around with MIDI and sequences and that sort of stuff. So I'm not a one-trick pony, I'm a two-trick pony, or actually a three-trick pony. So yeah, I think we've lost most of our side chatters because it is quite technical. You had your opportunity to join my Twitch stream now, if you knew about me, to ask questions that I may have forgotten. But you can always post it in the comments, I guess, and I'll see if I can upload Google Drive RAR file, R-A-R, or maybe a 7-zip. I suppose I could do that. I think I'm allowed to share the public stuff in one place. I can't see there should be any problems with that. But if so, they might delete it, and it means you might have to use all the links. And I'll see if I can repost all the links in the side chat and a pinned comment for you. Sometimes Google gets rid of that too. If not, try my BitChute account and other accounts that I'll copy it to. Copyright and all that sort of business is a pain in the bum. And of course, not sure if they class this as hacking, but it's not really hacking. It's just you're modifying your own gear for your own purposes, for your own needs, right? So we shouldn't have to do this complex stuff. It should be built into the watch, and you just click a couple buttons and you have full access to be able to install the apps you need. And I don't know if Apple will ever do that. They've clamped down theirs even harder than Android. But it's all sorts of extra nice things you can do once you've got full control of your watch. You can even change add-ons like firewall and extra line of stuff, information across the top of your phone for temperature and all that sort of stuff, you know. Anyway, I'll leave it there and say goodnight, and I'll close down with my regular thing, and I'll upload all this now, and hopefully it's all there. So yeah, if you want to try the FASTBOOT method, if you got the recovery image that you know is correct for your phone, or if it's a MTK, use the flash tool and do it the harder way, which gets around boot locking. So yeah, I'll just bring up my end credits and upload this in a minute, or on the next hour, and I'll say good night. And do sub. You never know if I add extra tutorials on this in the future. join my BitChute, join my YouTube, join my Rumble accounts. You can find me on the outtherechanel.wordpress.com. Just type in the Out There channel with no spaces in between on WordPress there, and you can find most of the links. And have a look for the files to download in the description, and also the pinned comments of YouTube and other alt media. So ideally, you should have pre-watched it first, and then got all your stuff together, and then re-watch it again. Make sure you get the right order. I stuffed up the order a wee bit at the end there of copying the files across. I forgot about that stage, but I did mention it earlier. Maybe I need to do a condensed version of this now. Good night.